If you're an individual who likes to think for yourself and do things for yourself, a union is not a place for you. You're going to be dictated to. Anything that you want out of the job, you have to go through someone else first, and that someone else is the union between you and the company.
How you decide to vote in the upcoming election will determine more than whether or not the union represents you. It will also affect the way in which you work and the relationship you have with your employer. Few, if any, of your job decisions are as important as this one. The choice of whether to work union or union-free is yours, and yours alone. Because every vote is equally important, you need to be well informed and prepared to cast a ballot. By not voting, you would be allowing someone else to decide this important issue. The election will be conducted by the National Labor Relations Board, not by the union or your employer. On the agreed-upon day and voting time, you'll go to the place set aside for holding the election. The location and voting times are shown on the Notice of Election form that's been posted at your workplace. When you enter the voting area, several people will be seated at a table. One of them will be a representative from the National Labor Relations Board. This is the person selected by the United States government to conduct the election. Also at the table will be an equal number of people representing both management and the union. Some of them could be your co-workers. Their job is to observe the election and make sure only eligible voters are given ballots and allowed to vote. Tell the National Labor Relations Board agent your name and, if required, your employee number. Your name will then be checked off the official list of eligible voters. This is done so no one but you can vote under your name, and so no one can vote twice. You will then be given a ballot. The ballot does not show your name or employee number or have any other means of identifying you. How you choose to vote is completely secret. Boxes are printed on the ballot and each is clearly identified. All you need to do is mark the square of your choice, either yes, you wish to be represented by the union, or no, you do not wish to be represented. After you've marked the ballot, fold it and drop it in the sealed ballot box. No one except the National Labor Relations Board representative can open this box. At the time the polls close, the voting is over. The representative from the National Labor Relations Board then opens the ballot box and counts the votes. Representatives of both management and the union watch as each vote is counted. The outcome of the election is then announced. All ballots are sealed and become the property of the United States government. As in local, state, and national elections, the result is determined by the majority of eligible voters who actually vote. Every voter who fails to cast a ballot is making it easier for the union to win. Also, anyone who earlier signed a union authorization card is free to change their mind on election day and vote no.
There can be no doubt that union representation would cause your life on the job to change, and in ways that today you might find hard to imagine. The question is whether or not those changes would be to your benefit. Although it's impossible to know all the effects unionization could have on your particular job, previous experience gives us a good idea of how employees' lives change when a union wins representation rights. The first place you would see a difference is your paycheck. It could be smaller. On average, $25 to $30 a month could be withheld for dues, and with no guarantee of a similar increase in pay or benefits. If that money was invested every month in a typical mutual fund retirement account instead, after 25 years, you could have this much saved and earning income. Whenever the union needs more money, most constitutions and local bylaws have the power to charge members special assessments. Often these assessments are taken out of members' paychecks for years. So dues are not the only way the union can take cash from your pocket. Problems on the job would no longer be solved by dealing directly with your employer. Instead, you would have to go through stewards and other union representatives to resolve complaints. This means local union officials would also have the power to decide whether your problem was even worthy of consideration. Unions are not obligated to pursue all grievances filed by members. Two documents, the union's constitution and the collective bargaining agreement, would affect nearly every aspect of your life on the job, as well as your relationship to the union. These are usually long and complicated legal documents. Few employees, including union stewards and committee persons, understand all their conditions. Yet union members are required to abide by every rule and regulation. As a unionized employee, your pay, benefits, and working conditions would be determined by collective bargaining negotiations. Whether those things would improve, remain the same, or even be reduced is impossible to say. No one can predict the outcome of negotiations. Should negotiations fail, you as a union member could be faced with the tough decision of whether or not to go on strike. Defying the union requires the courage to cross picket lines filled with emotional coworkers and to stand up to possible threats. Joining a strike means giving up your pay and benefits for what could be weeks or even months, and with no guarantee the union's demands will be met. Taking part in an economic strike sometimes means paying the ultimate price. Employers have the right to hire permanent replacements and are sometimes forced to use it. Although employees who have been replaced must be put on a recall list, it's impossible to say how long they might be out of work before positions become available.
Union representation may or may not mean greater job security or more money in your pocket every month. But unions clearly imply that they will stand up for all members and fairly represent a member's best interest. Yet each year, many union-represented employees file charges against their unions, claiming they were not fairly represented. During a recent 4-year period, over 20,000 of these charges were filed with the National Labor Relations Board. Here is proof that belonging to a union doesn't always work out the way organizers say.
The reason I filed this unfair labor practice is there was a guy that was 5 years behind me in seniority. I'd been running these pieces of equipment 5 years before he became a member. And I filed the unfair labor practice because they put him out ahead of me. When I filed the charge against the union, their response was, "We're going to get rid of you at any cost. We don't put up with troublemakers here. You do what we say and we do what we want." I was fined $4,000 and suspended. I appealed my case to the international. I went to Florida to the international meeting. I spoke for 2 hours down there about the problems in our hall. It didn't make any difference. I was never a threat to hurt the union in any way. It was not my intention to dishonor it in any way. I just expected it to be as respectable a union as I was a man. That's all I ever expected out of them. If you like it, no matter how it does to your dignity or your rights, then that's where you want to go. Go with the union, because they'll take you to the cleaners. They did me, I guarantee you. I earned 2 pensions, earned the money. Put the money for 2 pensions by the time I was 40 years old, and I'm not going to get either one of them. I lost them both. They're both gone. Nobody told me that I was going to get treated like this. And if they had have, I might have listened. I ain't saying I would have listened. I'm not saying that people's going to listen to me. But I'm saying if they ain't going to be able to bitch, because they've heard it straight up. And then when they get screwed, they're just going to have to take their medicine and take it, because they've heard the way it is from somebody that's been down the road in 2 unions, lost 2 pensions at the age of 40. I've tried everywhere to get a job, and it's to my understanding that the organized labor is more interested in keeping me from working than they ever were in putting me to work.
The union can't magically solve all job-related problems. In fact, as you've heard, a union often creates a whole new set of problems. The rights that employees thought the union would help guarantee for them are not always upheld. the power that was promised to individual members can be an illusion. Another reason unions no longer make sense in today's workplace is because the union response is often confrontation and conflict at a time when cooperation and flexibility are essential. Job losses due to the closing of unionized companies are not unusual. During 2 recent years, many union jobs were reported lost by local newspapers alone. And keep in mind, this is far from a complete total of all the unionized companies that either closed their doors or laid off employees during this time.
You might have recently heard the word empowerment. This is a popular term among union organizers. They want you to believe that if you vote to support the union, you'll be putting power in your own hands. But the facts about the union and the way it operates say otherwise. Its constitution and bylaws describe all the ways the union legally controls members. Collective bargaining agreements are complex documents that say when, where, and how employees work. Union officials are really like another group of managers you would have to deal with, except they represent the interests of the union. Real empowerment gives you the authority, whenever possible, to work out your own solutions without being hindered by union rules and restrictions. Job advancement and your value as an employee can be based on ability and not on favoritism or the union's interpretation of seniority rules. And true empowerment gives you the right to deal directly with your employer without going through an outside third party whose loyalty can be to a large international union that knows nothing about your individual needs.
I was a union officer, vice president of the local, executive board member, went through the politics of the local and advanced as far as I thought I wanted to, but then whenever I seen things were really falling apart and seen changes that I thought would really be important to the membership, so I decided to run against the incumbent, and I was fighting the whole international at that time because I actually got calls from Washington, D.C. from our international people threatening me. The union officials are really interested in just keeping the dues money rolling in so they can keep their high-paying jobs and their benefits. And otherwise, I don't think they really care that much about the actual workers.
They build a wall between you and the company. Even though you get along with every individual in the company and the management, the union will still build this wall up to keep you away from the management, so they have full control over you.
I originally got involved with the union because I wanted to help people. I became disillusioned over 13 years of representing workers with labor's message that you have to create issues in order to fulfill those needs. I don't believe that it's necessary to drive a wedge between workers and their employers. I don't think that's productive. I don't think it's what workers are looking for.
There's problems everywhere. Everywhere you go, whether it's a McDonald's or an 18,000 employee plant, there's going to be problems. Can the union fix those problems? No. Will they tell you they're going to fix the problems? Yes. Once they get in, do they fix the problems? Absolutely not. Go to any union organized work site. You got just as many problems there as you do with non-union work sites. And the biggest thing from letting my emotions take over that I would tell someone is buyer beware. You are buying something here. There are no refunds. You're not going to get your money back, and there's no guarantees.
The union is a business. Instead of selling a product, it's trying to sell you an idea. Union organizers, handouts, and informational meetings are some of the tools the union uses to sell itself, much like advertising. This is entirely legal and a part of every campaign. Fortunately, you have the right to hear both sides of the union issue before voting in the upcoming election. But there is a very important difference between other elections and the union election. If the union becomes your representative, A few years from now, there won't necessarily be another election to see if you're pleased with the union and still wish to be represented by it. This is why it's so important that when you vote, you don't allow personalities and promises to sway your judgment. All that matters is how your job and your future could be affected by union membership. Would supporting the union guarantee higher wages? No. Wages come from your employer, not the union. Would supporting the union guarantee better benefits? No. Again, benefits are provided by your employer, not by the union. Would union membership guarantee job security? No. Long-term job security depends on the economic health of your employer, as well as the condition of the marketplace and the quality of your work. Would joining the union give you greater say and freedom in doing your job? No. Unions are built on rules and restrictions and are controlled from the top down by a large bureaucracy. Would the union protect your pay and benefits during a strike? No. Pay and company benefits are among the first things striking union members give up. And finally, can the union guarantee it will put more money in your pocket every payday? No. Just the opposite. All you can definitely count on is money being deducted from your check for union dues, fees, and special assessments. The union is asking for your vote because it needs your money to survive. It is not a charity trying to give something away. But union representation is a deal without a money-back guarantee. In truth, it's a potentially damaging, unknown element in your working life. It certainly isn't the future of this organization, but you are. That's why your choice in this election is all important. Choose wisely.
I have to say that I have a great deal of faith in the ability of working people to sort out the truth. And I would say that get the information, listen carefully, weigh the promises and the proposed advantages against the disadvantages, and make a decision. And then I would remind them that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.